So this evening, it's time for number 21 of my countdown to number 1 for the best or my favourite rock record of 2023. And this evening, it's a death metal band. Now, I'm not a massive fan of death metal at all. I don't really care for it. I prefer something a bit more laid back. But this band are a bit different. For a start, I've seen them a good few times, and they're very good live. They're a local band to me, relatively local anyway. They're from Lancaster in northwest England, which is not a million miles away from Manchester. They play regularly around the live circuit of the northwest. And the record I want to talk about today is their second full LP called Distilled Aggression, and the name are Bloodyard. Now, I did mean to get this, but one thing and another, I've never actually got around to it this year. It came out in the summer, so I know it's going to have to be another phone job. So yeah, Bloodyard from Lancaster, northwest of England. What kind of music do they do? Well, as I said, it's essentially death metal. There's a bit more to it than that though. You've got female vocals, which give it that sort of slightly warmer tone to it, which I do like. She's also got very good range. She can go from guttural right down at the bottom to sort of mid-level to actual screaming, and a lot of the time you can't understand what she's saying, but some of the time you can, so you kind of get the point. Who's actually in the band? So you have Donna Hurd on vocals. They're a 4-piece. Nick Adamson on guitar, so that's one guitar. Dave Cowley on bass, and Matty Lee on drums. Now, the reason I mentioned one guitar is because a lot of these bands have 2 guitar players, and sometimes I think they get on top of each other, musically speaking. And I think it starts to, with many death metal bands or extreme metal bands, it starts to all sound a bit sort of, as I say, on top of each other, and it just gets a bit too much. Whereas this band, as they only have one guitar player, I think that works very, very well for them, because there's room, there's space. You can hear what people are doing. And it works very well live, and it works well on CD. Now, what songs do we have on here? Let's have a look. I mean, it's very typically, they're clearly a death metal band, you can tell by the song titles. You've got a song called Abracadabra, so you see where they're going. Surface Lies Silent. Okay. Now this is telling you what's beneath is evil. What's beneath the surface. Sung by the dead, obviously. Then came the Wolves, Demonology, Bloodshed Personified, Corpse Eye View, and finally Bloodborne. So you know where they're going, you know what kind of lyrics they are, what kind of songs they are. But is it all just screaming and shouting and vicious, aggressive heavy metal? It's not really, no, because there's a groove to it. Some of it's almost thrash metal, which is not a bad thing, but it does have a groove to it. And as I say, the fact that there's space to hear everybody on this is a great thing, because sometimes 2 guitar players, they can step on each other and it can all just get a little bit messy. Now, I don't expect many of you have heard of Bloodyard, but you really should. Give them a listen if you want something just a little bit different when it comes to death metal. If death metal is your thing, get on the old YouTube and give them a listen. They're on there. and see what you think. Because I think they're a good band. They're a good death metal band. And as I say, I'm not a fan of death metal by any stretch of the imagination. I prefer something much more laid back. But these guys have got something just a little bit different. And to me, it's to do with the female vocals and the fact that they've got one guitar player, a bass player and a drummer. You can hear everybody. And there's space, there's real room. It's roomy music. And I like that. And like I say, it sounds great. The production is really good. The production is really, again, roomy. It's a roomy production. It is loud, don't get me wrong. It's very loud, but it's a roomy production. And that's what a band like this requires. So they're doing death metal, but with a hint of thrash metal and thoughts given to space, thought given to room, attention paid not to step on each other. And I like that. And that is why I have put Bloodyard Distilled Aggression as my number 21 of my countdown of the best rock music albums of 2023.